There are seasons in life when people keep running yet still feel as if they are standing still. We chase money because we believe that once we have enough, our hearts will finally be at peace. We chase love because we believe someone else will fill the emptiness inside us. We chase success, recognition, praise, and approval from others, as if our worth were placed in the hands of the outside world. But the more we chase, the more exhausted the mind becomes. The harder we try to hold on, the further everything seems to drift away. And then there are very late nights when all the noise out there fades into silence, and we suddenly ask ourselves, why have we tried so hard and still not found peace? That is because for most of our lives, we are taught to hold on, to achieve, to control. No one teaches us how to let go. No one tells us that some things hurt more the tighter we hold them, and disappear faster the more desperately we cling to them. We grow up with the fear of being left behind, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being worthy enough, the fear that one day everything we have built will fall apart. And it is this fear that keeps people running endlessly like a thirsty traveler chasing a mirage in the desert. From afar, it looks like happiness, but when we come closer, only emptiness remains. In Buddhist teachings, suffering does not come from life itself. Suffering comes from attachment. We suffer not because things change, but because we want them to stay the same forever. We suffer not because people leave, but because we believe they should remain according to our wishes. We suffer not because time passes, but because we cling to youth, to beautiful moments, do things that no longer belong to the present. People often think that if they just try a little harder, hold on a little tighter, control a little more, they will finally find peace. But in truth, peace begins the moment we stop resisting the flow of life. Look at nature. A river does not struggle to flow, yet it still reaches the ocean. A tree does not worry about whether there will be enough sunlight tomorrow, yet it continues to grow every day. Clouds do not try to keep their shape, and so they are free to transform across the vast sky. Only humans are constantly resisting everything. We want life to unfold according to our plans. We want others to understand us the way we wish. We want certainty in the future, love that never changes, things that last forever. But life itself is impermanent, and the more we resist impermanence, the more we create hell within our own minds. Perhaps the most exhausting thing is not that life is too difficult. The most exhausting thing is having to constantly try to become someone else in order to be accepted. Many people spend their entire lives without ever truly resting in their souls. Even when sitting still, the mind keeps running back to the past with regrets, running toward the future with anxieties, running after the image of a good enough version of themselves they think they must become. But the paradox of life is this: the more we chase happiness, the further happiness slips away. The more we try to grasp peace, the more peace disappears. Because the most beautiful things in life often arrive when the mind is no longer forcing them. A bird cannot fly if it is afraid of the vastness of the sky. A person cannot be free if they cling to everything through the fear of loss. Sometimes life is not asking you to try harder. It is simply asking you to let go of control. Let go of the obsession with being better than others. Let go of the need to prove your worth to the world. Let go even of the old wounds you have carried for so long that they have begun to feel like part of who you are. Letting go does not mean giving up on life. Letting go means no longer fighting against the things you cannot change. It is the moment you realize that not every closed door is a loss. Some doors close in order to guide you somewhere more aligned. Some people leave so that you can learn how to return to yourself. Some plans fall apart so that you can realize life still holds another path far deeper than what the ego once desired. Buddhism teaches that the emptier the cup, the more fresh water it can receive. Yet people often live with minds that are far too full of expectations, full of regrets, full of other people's voices, full of society's definitions of success. And because the mind is too full, there is no room left for peace to enter. Sometimes what saves a person is not gaining something more. It is learning how to put down what has been weighing heavily on the soul. Have you ever noticed that the most peaceful moments often arrive naturally? A quiet morning when sunlight touches the window, a gentle breeze passing through, when the heart feels tired, a warm cup of tea late at night, a silent moment when you do not need to become anyone at all. Peace has never been far away. The mind has simply been too noisy for us to hear it. Many people spend their entire lives searching for the meaning of life, yet forget to truly live. They are always waiting for some future day when they will finally be happy, when they have more money, when they are more loved, when they become more successful. But life does not exist in someday, it exists in this moment. And this moment only becomes beautiful when the mind is no longer stretched tight by desire and fear. There is a deeply profound truth that people often realize too late. Life does not need to be chased. What truly belongs to you will arrive at the right time when your mind is calm enough to receive it. A flower does not bloom faster just because you pull its petals apart. Spring does not arrive sooner simply because you are impatient. Everything in nature has its own timing, and so do people. When you stop chasing the world, for the first time you will hear yourself. You will realize there are wounds within you that were never healed. There is loneliness you have always hidden beneath busyness. There are empty spaces that can never be filled by material things or the approval of others. And it is within that silence that the true journey of healing finally begins. Perhaps today you are still tired, still feeling trapped between endless pressures and anxieties. But remember this, no one can find peace while the mind remains in a constant state of chasing. Sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is to stop, not because they are giving up, but because they finally understand that life does not need to be forced in order to become beautiful. And then one day, when you stop trying to control everything, stop chasing what does not belong to you, stop forcing yourself to be perfect, you will realize the strangest thing. What is truly meant for you begins to appear naturally. Peace arrives. The right people arrive. The right opportunities arrive. Not because you chased after them, but because at last you learned how to let go. There comes a point in life when people begin to realize that what exhausts them is not because life is too heavy, but because they have been trying to carry too many things that were never truly theirs. We carry the expectations of family, the gaze of society, old wounds that were never healed, even the fear of being inferior to others, and day after day, our shoulders remain tense, without ever realizing that this attachment is silently draining the life force within us. Many people wake up every morning with hearts already tired before the new day has even begun, not because they are not trying, but because they live in a constant state of running to prove they are good enough, running so they will not be left behind, running to achieve a perfect image that society says they must become. But the more they run, the further they drift from themselves. Eventually, they look into the mirror and realize that familiar face is still there, but the light in their eyes disappeared a very long time ago. People often think peace lies at the end of the road, that if they just try a little harder, achieve one more thing, then they will finally be able to rest. But life becomes an endless chain of after earning enough money, after becoming successful, after being recognized, after meeting the right person, and because we keep living for the future, we miss the present. We lose the ability to feel the small things existing right in front of us. A person may possess many things yet still feel empty inside, because material abundance can never fill a soul that has gone too long without being heard. There are people who laugh a great deal, but feel so lonely inside that they do not know who to share it with. There are people who always appear strong, but are actually only trying to hide a heart that has become unbearably weary. And perhaps the saddest thing is that many people become so accustomed to enduring that they forget what it feels like to live gently. In Buddhism, all suffering begins with attachment. We want everything to remain forever, even though the nature of life is change. We want to control the future, even though no one can know what tomorrow will bring. We want others to love us the way we desire, yet we forget that every person is carrying their own silent battles within. And then, when things do not unfold according to our wishes, the mind begins to create anxiety, disappointment, and suffering. There are people who spend their youth chasing success, only to realize after achieving it that they were never truly happy. There are people who desperately hold on to relationships that no longer contain love simply because they fear loneliness. There are people who spend their entire lives comparing themselves to others without ever asking what they truly want. They are like leaves swept away in the winds of society's expectations, drifting endlessly without knowing where they truly belong. The strange thing is that life often begins to change when people learn how to stop, not to stop living, but to stop the meaningless race within the mind. Stop forcing themselves to be perfect. Stop trying to please everyone. Stop torturing themselves over what has already passed. Sometimes healing is not about adding more. Healing is about putting things down. Try to remember the moments of true peace in your life. Perhaps they were not the moments when you achieve something extraordinary. Maybe it was simply a quiet afternoon with rain falling outside the window. A moment sitting silently listening to the wind. A night when you no longer had to try to become anyone other than yourself. Peace has always been that simple. Humans are simply too accustomed to noise, so they believe happiness must be something grand. One of the greatest illusions of human beings is believing they must control everything for life to feel safe. But the more we try to control, the more we live in anxiety. Because life does not operate according to anyone's wishes. Some people will leave even though you love them deeply. Some plans will fall apart even though you tried your hardest. Some doors will close even though you do not want them to. And what hurts people the most is not the change itself, but their refusal to accept that change is a natural part of life. The Buddha once taught that clinging to impermanent things is like trying to hold water in the palm of your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster the water slips away. Yet people often live in opposition to that truth. We cling to the past even though it is gone. We cling to pain as if letting go would make everything we experienced meaningless. We hold on to old memories, old wounds, old words, until they become invisible chains binding our souls. There are people who are not truly living in the present. They live inside what should have been different. That person should not have left them. They should have been more successful. Life should have been fairer. But the more people live inside the words should have, the further they drift from reality. And reality is the only place where peace can truly exist. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go requires immense courage. It takes courage to accept that not everything belongs to us. Courage to keep walking forward, even while the heart still hurts. Courage to stop searching for self-worth in the eyes of others. And above all, courage to live truthfully as yourself instead of trying to become the version the world wants to see. When a person truly lets go of the attachments within, they begin to change in very quiet ways. They are no longer constantly rushing, no longer easily carried away by praise or wounded by criticism. They learn how to sit quietly with themselves without feeling empty. They no longer search for happiness somewhere far away, because at last they understand that what they truly need was never outside themselves. There is a kind of freedom so profound that no amount of money can buy it. It is freedom from the need to be accepted by everyone, freedom from the fear of judgment, freedom from the constant need to prove one's worth. When the mind is no longer controlled by such things, a person truly begins to live. Life itself is like the sky. Emotions, loss, and suffering are only clouds passing through. But because we identify ourselves too deeply with those clouds, we forget that our true nature is always greater than any pain. A storm may cover the sky for a while, but it cannot erase the existence of the sky itself. And the dark seasons of life are the same. They are not who you truly are, they are only things passing through your soul. Perhaps right now you are still carrying immense pressure. There are still pains you cannot yet name. There are still long nights when you do not know what you are living for. But remember that sometimes life does not need you to try harder. It only needs you to become lighter, slower, silent long enough to hear the voice deep within yourself. Because in the end, what saves a person is not how much they possess, but whether their heart still holds peace. And peace only appears when we stop chasing life like a desperate person and instead learn to trust that what truly belongs to us will arrive at the right moment. When the mind has finally learned how to let go, there will come a day when you no longer want to run anymore. Not because life has become free of difficulties, not because every problem has disappeared, but because after all the exhausting years, you began to understand that no destination out there can bring peace if the mind within is still in chaos. You will realize that you spent too much time trying to become someone, to the point that you forgot what it feels like to truly be yourself. Some people go through almost their entire lives before understanding that the most valuable thing is not how much they achieved, but how lightly they were able to live, because in the end, everything will eventually change. Money can be lost, fame can fade away, relationships that once seemed eternal will one day drift apart. Even this body someday will grow old with time. No one can hold on to anything forever in their hands. And perhaps that is exactly what makes this life sacred, because everything is impermanent. Every moment becomes precious. A ray of morning sunlight, a sincere embrace, a peaceful afternoon without noise, a moment of sitting still without having to tent yourself against life anymore. Those seemingly small things are actually where true happiness exists. But sadly, people often realize the value of peace only after passing through too many storms. We have lived too long in a world that constantly pushes us to be faster, better, more successful. A world where people are measured by achievements, appearance, and recognition. And gradually, many people forget how to listen to their own hearts. They no longer know what truly makes them happy. They only know how to keep running because everyone around them is running too. But if we continue living like that forever, there will come a time when the soul becomes exhausted. There will come a morning, an ordinary morning, when you wake up, look out the window, and feel an unfamiliar emptiness inside yourself. No more motivation, no more joy, no longer knowing what you are striving for. And it is precisely in that moment that many people began to understand that what they lacked was never success or material things. What they lacked was connection with themselves. Human beings can endure a great deal of suffering, but what truly breaks them is the feeling of living disconnected from their own souls for too long. Perhaps you once tried to be strong to the point that you no longer allowed yourself to be vulnerable. Perhaps you silently swallowed every wound because you believed no one could understand you. Perhaps you tried so hard to please everyone while your own spirit slowly became depleted. And then one day, you realized that the most heartbreaking thing is not that others fail to understand you, but that you yourself abandoned who you were a very long time ago. Buddhism does not teach people to escape life. Buddhism teaches how to live within life while keeping the mind at peace, not by controlling everything, but by understanding the nature of all things, understanding that every emotion will pass, every loss will pass, every suffering will also not last forever. Just as the sky does not keep the rain for itself, life does not hold on to any state permanently. When people truly understand that, they begin to feel lighter. They no longer fall into despair when a door closes because they know life is always moving. They no longer try to hold on to people who have already chosen to leave. They no longer force themselves to be perfect in the eyes of the world. And, strangely enough, it is precisely when they stop trying to control everything that they begin to experience a kind of freedom they had never known before. There is a kind of peace that only appears when you accept that you cannot keep everything. You cannot keep youth forever. You cannot keep every relationship forever. You cannot keep every emotion forever. You cannot keep life standing still according to your wishes, but you can learn how to fully be present with what is here. And that is how people truly live. Many people think letting go means losing something, but sometimes letting go is actually the way to save yourself. Because if you keep holding on to things that no longer belong to the present, your hands will no longer be light enough to receive something new. A heart filled with regret leaves no room for peace to enter. Some pain does not disappear with time. It only disappears when people stop clinging to it as part of their identity. Some people carry one hurtful sentence for many years. Some live forever inside the memory of a separation. Some have never forgiven themselves for old mistakes. But if they continue seeing themselves only through those wounds, they will remain trapped inside a prison created by their own minds. Forgiveness is not because others deserve it. Forgiveness is so your own heart can be free. Letting go does not mean forgetting everything. Letting go means no longer allowing the past to determine your entire life. And sometimes the journey of healing begins with very small things, allowing yourself to rest once without feeling guilty, sitting in silence once instead of constantly keeping yourself busy, stopping the habit of blaming yourself for not being good enough, looking into the mirror once and being a little gentler with yourself. Human beings often treat themselves more harshly than they treat anyone else. We forgive others more easily than we forgive ourselves. We understand the pain of others yet deny our own emotions. We always think we need to become stronger, better, more perfect before we deserve to be loved. But the truth is, you do not need to become someone else in order to have value. You do not need to be perfect in order to be at peace. You do not need to win every battle in order to feel whole. You are already enough in this very moment, and perhaps that is the hardest thing to believe in a world that constantly makes people feel they are never enough. If today you are tired, allow yourself to rest for a while. If today you feel lost, remember that no one understands life immediately. If today you are hurting, remember that every storm eventually passes. Do not force yourself to heal too quickly. Do not compare your journey to someone else's. A tree does not grow overnight. A soul also needs time to recover after long periods of pain. What matters is not how fast you move. What matters is whether you are slowly returning to yourself. And if these words touch some part of your soul, try pausing for a few seconds and listening to yourself. Perhaps it has been a very long time since you truly asked your heart how tired it really is. Leave a comment about what you are trying to let go of in this life. It may be an old pain, a past relationship, or simply the pressure to become someone other than yourself. Sometimes writing it down is already the first step toward healing. And if you wish to continue this journey of rediscovering peace, learning how to slow down, understanding the wisdom of Buddhism more deeply, and healing the soul in a chaotic world, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next videos, because perhaps you have spent too long searching outside when what you truly needed has always existed within your own mind.